this show, what was it about this? 40 years, I can't even imagine it's been 40 years.
The show really gave people something to dream about.
Yeah.
You know, they saw cruise ships for the first time in their lives, a lot of people.
This is the scene. Clear blue ocean waters, endless tropical drinks, and high seas romance wrapped in 70s TV glitz. The Love Boat promised viewers the ultimate escape every Saturday night. But under all that sun-drenched glam lay a reality far wilder than the scripts. We're talking international busts, secret real-world passengers stranded at sea, tragic ship endings, and cast secrets nobody aired on prime time. Grab your life jacket. Here are 20 bizarre facts that show what really went down aboard the Pacific Princess. The tell-all memoir that started it all. You probably think the Love Boat was dreamed up by some suits in a Hollywood writer's room while sipping martinis and staring at a whiteboard. Not even close. The entire ocean-bound franchise actually traces its roots back to the juicy pages of a 1974 tell-all memoir titled Love Boats. It was penned by a woman named Geraldine Saunders, who happened to be the very first female cruise director for Princess Cruises. Geraldine wasn't writing sugary fairy tales. She was spilling the real, unfiltered tea on what went down behind closed cabin doors. Her book was packed with chaotic love triangles, demanding passengers, secretive crew hookups, and the sheer madness of keeping hundreds of vacationers entertained on the high seas. When legendary TV producer Aaron Spelling got his hands on the book, he realized her real-life misadventures were a goldmine for television. He optioned the rights, smoothed out the rougher edges for primetime audiences, and transformed a former cruise director's raw, high-seas tell-all into a weekly pop culture titan that defined Saturday night television for an entire decade. Without Geraldine breaking barriers on the high seas and recording every scandal, the iconic show never would have left the dock. Think the iconic crew was set from day one? The road to the gang you know was anything but smooth. The haunted phantom cruise of the 3 failed voyages. Before Captain Steubing and his iconic crew ever welcomed a single guest on primetime TV, ABC tried to launch this ship 3 separate times and failed miserably each time. Between 1976 and 1977, the network produced 3 distinct pilot TV movies, cycling through almost entirely different casts because executives couldn't figure out the right dynamic. In the very first pilot, you wouldn't have recognized a single soul on the bridge or behind the bar. Ted Hamilton played the ship's captain, Dick Van Patten was the doctor, and the crew lacked any of the signature charm that later hooked millions. Viewers completely bounced off it. ABC tried again with a second pilot, swapping out actors like a game of high seas musical chairs. It wasn't until the third pilot, when Gavin MacLeod, Bernie Kopell, Fred Grandy, and Ted Lang finally stepped into their roles, that the magic clicked. Lauren Tews was actually brought in at the absolute last minute as Julie McCoy, auditioning on a Thursday and filming on location by Monday. If ABC hadn't obsessively recut and resailed those 3 weird forgotten proto-shows, The Love Boat would have sunk into television obscurity before ever making its official debut. Paying guests, accidental movie extras on the high seas. Filming a TV show on a real floating cruise ship isn't like shooting on a quiet Hollywood soundstage. To keep costs grounded, producers actually shot major scenes on genuine, operational Princess Cruises voyages. That meant hundreds of real, everyday vacationers who had paid top dollar for a relaxing tropical holiday suddenly found themselves wandering right through live camera setups. Instead of hiring thousands of paid background actors, the crew simply let the real passengers roam free. If you see people sunbathing in the background, sipping colorful cocktails by the pool, or dancing awkwardly in the lounge, there's a huge chance they were just regular tourists, completely oblivious to the script. Production crew members constantly had to wrangle clueless passengers who wandered into frame, asked Gavin MacLeod where the buffet was, or tried to order actual drinks from Ted Lang while the cameras were rolling. Passengers even signed liability waivers, tucked into their boarding paperwork, unknowingly surrendering their likenesses to primetime television history. It created an impossibly bizarre environment where Hollywood glitz directly collided with real-world vacation chaos, turning unsuspecting tourists into uncredited background stars on one of the biggest television hits of the late 70s. The poisonous scrapyard grave of the Pacific Princess. If you pictured the real Pacific Princess resting peacefully in a maritime museum or sailing off into a golden sunset, prepare for a major reality check. The beloved vessel met an utterly grim, toxic end far removed from its glamorous TV glory days. After decades of changing corporate hands and deteriorating under outdated mechanical systems, the legendary ship was finally sold for scrap in 2013. It made its final, tragic voyage to a shipbreaking yard in Aliaga, Turkey, to be ripped apart for spare steel. The demolition turned fatal almost immediately. While workers were cutting into the hull, an exhaust system flooded the engine compartment, exposing the crew to lethal amounts of toxic asbestos and dangerous engine gases. 2 Turkish shipbreakers tragically lost their lives during the dismantling process, and several others were hospitalized with severe poisoning. It was a dark, suffocating finale for a ship that had brought light-hearted romance into millions of living rooms every week. Instead of being celebrated as a cultural icon, the floating backdrop of 70s TV history dissolved into a deadly mess of scrapped metal, toxic hazard reports, and industrial tragedy. Speaking of illegal high seas activity, the real ship had a run-in with law enforcement that rivaled a crime drama, the floating cartel's 50-pound substance heist. Long after the Hollywood production lights went dark and Captain Steubing hung up his hat, the Pacific Princess was involved in a real-life crime plot that felt straight out of a gritty 90s action thriller. In 1998, while operating under a different cruise line in the Mediterranean, the vessel was raided by Greek law enforcement in the port of Piraeus. What authorities discovered hidden deep within the ship's internal structures stunned international investigators and shocked television fans worldwide. Undercover agents seized over 50 pounds of pure heroin smuggled directly aboard the liner. International syndicates had been using the iconic ship's regular Mediterranean transit routes as a perfect cover to move massive shipments of illegal narcotics across European borders. Smugglers banked on Border Patrol agents, assuming a famous, cheerful luxury cruise ship was above suspicion. Greek authorities immediately impounded the entire vessel, detaining members of the crew who were secretly working for Italian organized crime networks. The very same corridors where fictional guest stars once engaged in goofy romance subplots had morphed into a high-stakes pipeline for an international illegal cartel, proving that the real ship's off-camera history contained far more criminal intrigue than anything Aaron Spelling ever wrote for television. The Secret Bartending Boot Camp of Isaac Washington. When Ted Lang landed the role of Isaac Washington, the world's most charismatic television bartender, he didn't just show up, flash a $1 million smile, and fake his way through pouring tropical drinks. He actually took his craft so seriously that he enrolled in a rigorous real-world professional bartending school before stepping in front of the cameras. Lang wanted every single pour, stir, glass flip, and cocktail shake to look like second nature to someone who lived his life slinging drinks at sea. That dedication was entirely his own idea. He paid out of his own pocket to master the mechanics of high-speed mixology, learning how to measure alcohol by eye and handle fast-paced service under pressure. It was during these intense training sessions that he perfected the famous double finger point gesture that became his signature TV move. When fans stopped him in public, they didn't just ask for an autograph. They constantly begged him to pour them a drink or hit them with his iconic finger guns salute. What looked like casual, breezy television charisma was actually backed by real mixology training, making Isaac the coolest and most technically legitimate bartender on 70s primetime television. The bizarre pipeline from Gopher to Capitol Hill. If you thought B-list Hollywood actors only moved on to reality TV shows or infomercials, the real-life political career of Fred Grandy will completely blow your mind. For 9 seasons, Grandy won over millions of viewers as the bumbling, sweater-wearing ship purser Burl "Gopher" Smith. He was the king of light-hearted slapstick, goofy facial expressions, and high seas comedic relief. But the moment the show wrapped its final voyage, Grandy traded in his ship officer's uniform for a tailored suit and launched a dead-serious career in American politics. In 1986, Grandy ran as a Republican candidate for Iowa's 6th congressional district in the United States House of Representatives. Critics initially laughed off his campaign as an absurd Hollywood publicity stunt, expecting voters to reject a guy known for playing a TV goofball. But Grandy shocked political insiders by winning the election, and he didn't stop there. He served 4 consecutive terms from 1987 to 1995, building a reputation as a surprisingly sharp, policy-focused legislator who chaired major ethics committees. Opponents who tried to mock his gopher past quickly realized that beneath the sitcom persona sat a Harvard-educated political powerhouse who seamlessly navigated the halls of Congress, Andy Warhol's surreal pop art high seas fever dream. In 1985, The Love Boat delivered one of the most absurdly surreal crossovers in modern television history when avant-garde pop art icon Andy Warhol stepped aboard the Pacific Princess. Warhol wasn't just a guest star taking a paycheck. He was actually an obsessed fan who rarely missed an episode. When producers offered him a cameo as himself, the king of modern art jumped at the chance to plunge headfirst into mainstream 70s and 80s pop culture. The storyline was every bit as weird as you'd expect. Warhol played himself as a celebrity passenger who gets relentlessly hounded by a conservative housewife, played by veteran actress Marion Ross of Happy Days fame, who is terrified that her secret past as a former Warhol superstar model will be exposed to her straight-laced husband. Seeing the painter of Campbell's soup cans exchanging dramatic dialogue with Marion Ross while floating past tropical islands felt like an unbelievable fever dream. Warhol later wrote in his diaries that filming the episode was one of the most thrilling experiences of his life. Even though the surreal contrast between high-concept Manhattan art galleries and cheesy Saturday night sitcom romance left critics and viewers completely bewildered. Lauren Tu's tragic off-screen downward spiral. Behind the radiant, perpetually cheery smile of cruise director Julie McCoy, actress Lauren Tu's was fighting a brutal, secret battle against severe addiction. As The Love Boat exploded into a global rating juggernaut, the grueling production schedules, sudden international fame, and overwhelming pressure led Tu's down a dark path. At the peak of her addiction, she was spending huge portions of her paycheck to fuel a habit that quickly spiraled out of control. Her life off-camera began bleeding onto the set. She frequently showed up late, looked visibly exhausted during filming, and struggled to memorize her lines, severely frustrating castmates and executive producer Aaron Spelling. After multiple warnings and interventions failed, producers made the agonizing decision to fire her in 1984, quietly replacing her character with Pat Klaus as cruise director Judy McCoy. Tuohy's later opened up about her rock-bottom moment, admitting she had lost her career, her savings, and her health to the substances. Her tragic departure served as a heartbreaking reminder that the breezy, sun-drenched paradise shown on screen often hid deeply dark, real-world struggles behind the scenes. While dark secrets brewed off-screen, the show was single-handedly revolutionizing a multi-billion-dollar global industry. The multi-billion-dollar cruise miracle. It's hard to imagine now, but before The Love Boat debuted in 1977, taking a cruise was widely considered a boring, outdated pastime reserved almost exclusively for wealthy retirees and elite aristocrats. The average person simply didn't consider an ocean voyage for their annual family vacation. But Aaron Spelling's glossy, romance-packed vision changed public perception virtually overnight. By portraying cruising as an affordable, glamorous party full of endless sunshine, gourmet food, and singles looking for love, the show single-handedly sparked a modern global phenomenon. the real-world financial impact was staggering. Princess Cruises, which supplied the ships for filming, saw its booking numbers explode exponentially during the show's 9-season run. Other maritime lines rushed to build larger, more luxurious ships just to keep up with the overwhelming surge in consumer demand. Industry analysts unanimously credit the Love Boat with birthing the modern multi-billion-dollar cruise market. What started as a lightweight, weekly primetime sitcom turned out to be the greatest, most successful multi-year infomercial in corporate history, transforming a dying niche maritime market into a massive, booming industry that now carries tens of millions of passengers across the globe every single year. The surreal phantom laughter of the open seas, one of the most bizarre stylistic choices in television history, belongs to how the Love Boat handled its comedic sound design. Unlike standard 70s sitcoms like Three's Company or All in the Family, which were shot in front of live studio audiences inside controlled sound stages, the Love Boat filmed massive portions of its episodes out on the open ocean. Yet, despite being surrounded by crashing ocean waves, sea breezes, and real ocean air, producers insisted on layering a heavy, unnatural laugh track over every punchline. Hearing canned, artificial crowd laughter echoes while characters stood on an actual ship deck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean created an extraordinarily surreal viewing experience. It felt like a bizarre hybrid between a live-action theatrical play and a glossy Hollywood movie. Sound engineers struggled constantly to blend the artificial studio sweetening recorded inside quiet room acoustics with the windy, unpredictable audio captured on real ship decks. Nevertheless, network executives refused to drop the laugh track, firmly believing primetime audiences wouldn't recognize a show as a comedy unless an invisible phantom audience giggled in the background while Captain Steubing and his crew delivered their light-hearted jokes. The mind-boggling roster of A-list cameos. If you think modern crossover events are impressive, the Love Boat set a standard for star power that television will likely never match again. Over its celebrated 9-season run, the show featured an astounding roster of more than 1,000 guest stars. Booking a slot on the Pacific Princess became the ultimate status symbol for Hollywood icons, rising talent, and legendary performers looking to connect with primetime audiences on Saturday night. The guest list reads like a museum of 20th-century pop culture. A young Tom Hanks appeared long before his Oscar days. Janet Jackson guest-starred right as her music career was taking flight, and comedy royalty like Betty White, Lucille Ball, and Milton Berle regularly graced the decks. Classic Hollywood screen legends like Lana Turner, Ginger Rogers, and Lillian Gish even stepped aboard for dramatic subplots. The show functioned as a glamorous rolling incubator where old-school studio stars shared screen time with the hottest television actors of the 80s. Getting cast on a voyage wasn't just a gig. It was an all-expenses-paid trip to tropical locations where stars could work minimal hours, work on their tans, and leave an indelible mark on primetime history. With that many famous faces coming through, unexpected sitcom reunions were bound to happen. The forbidden Brady Bunch reunion at sea. When you have over 1,000 guest stars cycling through a single show, awkward real-world overlap is inevitable, and few moments were weirder than the unspoken Brady Bunch dynamic on board. Television icon Florence Henderson, famous for playing TV matriarch Carol Brady, held the impressive title for the most guest appearances on the Love Boat, returning a staggering 9 separate times in completely different roles. During one specific voyage, producers also booked Robert Reed, her iconic on-screen husband, Mike Brady. Fans sat on the edge of their seats expecting a nostalgic TV reunion between America's favorite sitcom couple. Instead, producers pulled an incredibly bizarre move. They deliberately kept Henderson and Reed in completely separate storylines, never allowing their characters to cross paths or share a single line of dialogue on camera. They tantalized millions of viewers with subtle background glimpses and wink-and-nod production framing without ever acknowledging their iconic past together. It turned out to be an intentional, tongue-in-cheek move by producers who loved teasing the audience, creating a strange high seas ghost reunion that drove die-hard sitcom fans absolutely wild. Charo's unstoppable 10-trip conquest. While hundreds of guest stars made memorable single appearances on the show, one explosive personality practically moved into the guest cabins permanently: the legendary guitar virtuoso and pop icon Charo. Playing the character of April Lopez, an energetic, fiercely independent entertainer who constantly stumbled into romantic and career mishaps, Charo turned the Love Boat into her personal primetime playground. She guest-starred a total of 10 times, making her one of the most recurring non-regular cast members in the entire history of the series. Every time Charo boarded the Pacific Princess, ratings soared. Her electric screen presence, famous "Coochie Coochie" catchphrase, and mind-blowing classical guitar skills made her an absolute fan favorite. Producers loved her so much that they practically wrote custom episodes specifically tailored around her comedic talents. For an entire generation of television viewers, Charo wasn't just a guest star passing through. Her vibrant energy was so deeply baked into the show's DNA that she felt like an unofficial sixth member of the main crew. Gavin MacLeod's feud with executive doubters. It's almost impossible to picture the Love Boat without Captain Merrill Stubbing at the helm, sporting his crisp white uniform and warm, reassuring smile. But in the early days of production, network executives were vehemently opposed to casting Gavin MacLeod in the leading role. Fresh off his wildly successful run as the balding, lovable, but distinctly non-romantic newswriter Murray Slaughter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, executives argued that MacLeod lacked the conventional dashing romantic lead qualities needed to command a ship full of swooning passengers. They wanted a classic, jawline-heavy Hollywood heartthrob to captain the vessel. However, legendary executive producer Aaron Spelling saw something the suits missed: genuine warmth, authoritative gravitas, and an approachable charm that made viewers immediately trust him. Spelling dug in his heels and fought fiercely for MacLeod, refusing to sign off on alternative casting choices. Spelling's gamble paid off massively. MacLeod transformed Captain Stubbing into the beloved heart and soul of the franchise for 9 full seasons, proving that genuine warmth and quiet charisma beat generic Hollywood looks every single time. The legendary Charlie's Angels High Seas Heist. In autumn 1979, executive producer Aaron Spelling pulled off an ambitious TV event by orchestrating a massive 2-part crossover between his 2 biggest primetime juggernauts, Charlie's Angels and The Love Boat. The plot sent Angels Kelly Garrett, Chris Monroe, and Tiffany Wells aboard the Pacific Princess to track down a gang of sophisticated international art thieves who were using the luxury liner as a mobile fence for stolen masterpieces. Seeing crime-fighting icons like Farrah Fawcett's successors strolling the sun-drenched decks alongside Captain Stubbing and Gopher was an absolute dream for late 70s television fans. While the Angels were executing undercover stings, dodging armed henchmen, and cracking the high seas heist, the regular Love Boat crew remained completely oblivious to the danger, casually slinging drinks, organizing shuffleboard tournaments, and trying to flirt with the undercover detectives. The 2-hour blockbuster event drew massive ratings, proving that Spelling's formula of blending high-stakes crime drama with breezy, tropical romance was a recipe for primetime gold. Ever wonder how small that famous luxury liner actually was compared to today's floating cities? The tiny scale of the original Pacific Princess. When The Love Boat aired in the late 70s and 80s, the Pacific Princess looked like a towering, sprawling floating palace to millions of home viewers. But when compared to the modern megaships dominating the high seas today, the original icon was astonishingly tiny. The ship measured just 550 feet in length and carried a maximum of around 600 passengers alongside a modest crew, a far cry from today's maritime giants. For perspective, Today's largest cruise ships stretch over 1,100 feet, hold more than 7,000 passengers, and feature multi-story water parks, ice skating rinks, and zip lines. On the Pacific Princess, there were no sprawling promenades or endless specialty restaurants. The ship offered an intimate, cozy atmosphere where every passenger naturally crossed paths with the crew multiple times a day. That compact scale was precisely what made the show's tight romantic subplots and breezy comedic mix-ups believable. Had Captain Stubing's crew been managing one of today's floating cities, Julie McCoy would have spent her entire shift just trying to locate her guests across 20 different decks. The musical changing of the guard. Few theme songs in television history are as universally recognizable as the breezy, brass-heavy opening track of The Love Boat. Composed by Charles Fox with lyrics by Paul Williams, the song promised viewers that love was exciting and new every single Saturday night. For the first 8 seasons, legendary crooner Jack Jones provided the smooth, velvet-like vocals that accompanied the opening credits as the cast waved from the ship decks. His iconic delivery helped define the sleek, late 70s aesthetic of the series. However, as the show entered its 9th and final season in 1985, producers decided the franchise needed a fresh, modern coat of paint to stay relevant against changing musical trends. In a dramatic shift, they replaced Jack Jones's signature opening track with a brand new soul-infused rendition recorded by R&B royalty Dionne Warwick. Warwick's version brought a completely different energy, replacing the traditional lounge singer vibe with slick 80s pop production, electric synths, and powerful vocal runs. While traditionalists missed the classic Jack Jones original, Warwick's version gave the final season a vibrant, contemporary groove, demonstrating how even a show's most sacred traditions were open to reimagining on the high seas. The staggering $12 million Far East gamble. By the mid-80s, The Love Boat was no longer content with filming quick trips between Los Angeles and Puerto Vallarta. To keep longtime viewers hooked, producers began staging increasingly extravagant, multi-part special episodes filmed entirely on location in exotic foreign ports. The absolute peak of this ambition came with the production of the show's legendary Far East specials, which saw the cast and crew travel to Japan, China, and Hong Kong for an unprecedented, globe-trotting adventure. Executing a full-scale television production across Asia during the 80s was an absolute logistical nightmare that carried a mind-boggling price tag of over $12 million. At the time, it was one of the most expensive location shoots in the entire history of episodic television. Shipping heavy camera gear, sound equipment, and dozens of cast members across the Pacific required massive international coordination and custom diplomatic permits, especially for scenes filmed in mainland China, which had only recently opened its doors to Western media crews. The gamble paid off visually, offering home viewers stunning, cinematic backdrops of ancient temples, bustling foreign harbors, and historic landmarks that elevated a simple weekly sitcom into a globe-trotting television spectacle. Even decades after the final voyage, the crew's real-life bond took on a whole new role. Real-life mass weddings on the high seas. When the Love Boat lowered its final anchor in 1986, you might have expected the cast to scatter, collect their syndication checks, and leave the maritime life behind forever. Instead, the core actors formed a real-life bond that lasted for decades, and they continued using their star power to celebrate real-world romance long after the cameras stopped rolling. Serving as official ambassadors for Princess Cruises, original cast members Gavin MacLeod, Ted Lang, Bernie Kopelchi, Fred Grandy, Lauren Tews, and Jill Whelan regularly reunited on modern cruise ships to host unprecedented mass wedding and vow renewal ceremonies. The grandest of these events took place in 2020 on the Regal Princess, where the cast officiated a record-breaking ceremony for over 600 couples simultaneously on the top deck. McLeod and his former co-stars didn't just pose for photos, they personally signed marriage certificates, shared personal advice, and raised toasts with fans who had drawn romantic inspiration from their Saturday night broadcasts decades earlier. It was a poetic, full-circle finale for a fictional TV crew that spent 9 years dispensing TV romance, only to spend their later years bringing real-life happily ever afters to thousands of devoted fans around the world. A global phenomenon. When The Love Boat launched on ABC in the autumn of 1977, television critics initially wrote it off as lightweight, formulaic fluff. They were dead wrong. The show instantly exploded into a primetime juggernaut, anchoring ABC's formidable Saturday night lineup alongside Fantasy Island. For 9 solid seasons and 245 episodes, it dominated national ratings, consistently landing in the top 20 TV shows in the United States and pulling in tens of millions of loyal viewers every single week. It became the ultimate comfort watch for a nation seeking a breezy, sun-soaked escape from real-world stresses. Its massive success wasn't just a domestic fluke. It rapidly transformed into a certified global phenomenon. Syndicated in over 90 countries worldwide, the series was dubbed and subtitled across Europe, Latin America, Asia, and Australia. International audiences fell head over heels for the show's comforting structure. 3 predictable, light-hearted romantic storylines wrapped up neatly in under an hour, set against a backdrop of aspirational high-seas luxury. In countries like France, Italy, Spain, and Mexico, Captain Stubing and his crew members became genuine household names. The show's sunny American idealism offered viewers around the globe a weekly hour of pure, unadulterated escapism from cold winters, economic hardship, and local political tensions. Beyond impressive television ratings and international pop culture dominance, the show's ultimate triumph was its jaw-dropping real-world economic impact. The Love Boat single-handedly transformed the global cruise industry from an elite, dying luxury reserved almost exclusively for wealthy retirees into a vibrant, mainstream vacation option for everyday families, young singles, and honeymooners. Booking numbers for Princess Cruises soared by thousands of % during the show's run, forever altering modern global tourism and forcing maritime companies to build sprawling new fleets just to keep pace with the staggering demand generated by Saturday night broadcasts. Gavin MacLeod passed away in 2021. Surviving original cast members, Ted Lang, Bernie Kopel, Fred Grandy, Lauren Toos, and Jill Whelan, are mostly retired from full-time acting, occasionally appearing at fan conventions, nostalgia reunions, and Princess Cruises ambassador events celebrating the show's legacy. By the time Captain Stubing and his iconic crew took their final bow in 1986, The Love Boat had earned multiple Golden Globe nominations, spawned spin-offs, TV movies, and modern reboots, and cemented its place in pop culture history as one of the most commercially successful, universally beloved television franchises of the 20th century. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that a simple idea, mixing romance, comedy, and a luxury liner, could conquer the global airwaves and reshape an entire global industry forever. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button for more in this channel.